without further ado, the floor is yours, Tāriq ji, and his presentation is a poetic and a verse representation of Sahir-nama, written specially for this centenary celebration.
Okay, thank you. Prabjoti, could you confirm my voice is coming across okay and the video and the audio is okay?
Perfect.
Okay,
Perfect.
great. I'm setting it up differently from last time. So here we begin. Thank you so much for this opportunity to be part of the celebration of the life of Sahir Ludhianvi, and to Dr. Prabjot Palmer and to the UFV for their Herculean task of energizing this tag team over two nights, 2 days and nights. So it's a marathon you're running. Sahir would have loved it that we are marking the International Women's Day today. So I think it's a very fitting day to celebrate his birthday. Here is my humble attempt to distill in a few verses what nearly 6 decades of listening to Sahir have meant to me. Sahir-nama, an ode to Sahir. This man on fire is a whirling dervish possessed by his jinns, who has forgotten his way home and spews contagion along the way, stumbling across dimly lit stages, putting words in the mouths of flawless silver gods, stretched taut across the length and breadth of our walls. Until one day his whispers become our dreams. His mantra in life will be to only connect with our deepest longings, even if it takes him 100 deaths and 100 rebirths. And in this process, he may be controversial, but the pace and lilt of his verses are never uninformed, his tenderness never less eloquent, and his outrage at the human condition never less infuriating, until it becomes persuasively ours. His unfiltered poetry comes to us, his spellbound listeners, in all its purity, pungent, astringent, or coy, always more potent than mere literature, delivered to us in the freshly perfected medium of playback, of such fluency that his voice will become ours, mixing the sacred with the irreverent, the prosaic with the divine, and yet somehow still delivering its heartfelt lyrics for every season of our lives. Somehow he pierces the fourth wall even when the trope-laden melodramas sink under their own weight, defying gravity. Millions of listeners encounter him early in their lives, not yet fully realizing who he is or what he is saying, imbibing from him their first inklings of humanism, and learning to recoil from the awareness that suffering is truly universal. Raga influenced or scripture sourced, these deceptively simple folk tunes defy gravity. They beguile us with their soaring vocals and orchestral crescendos. And so the listeners sit day and night, spellbound and motionless, sighing, laughing, or weeping, occasionally clapping and tossing coins at the screen. When the lights are finally turned off, they do not want to return to earth or for the euphoria to end just yet. And they set out to feed their newfound addiction to words, wearing out scratchy needles on percolate and vinyl grooves, tangling magnetic tapes or depleting radio batteries, and in the process learning the magic of auto-repeat long before there is such a thing as auto-repeat. In the spotlight, when filmfare, fanfare, accolades and awards smile on him, is it any wonder that he contends henceforth film scores will be composed for his lyrics rather than his lyrics composed to match the score? And he insists that he must be paid a rupiah more than the leading singer of the day, a singer who has proclaimed film is an excuse for music. by declaring that hereafter all radio stations broadcasting film songs must also credit the lyricist. He revolutionizes our lyrical landscape that must now acknowledge its creative sources and place the lyricist on the same footing as the playback singer and the composer. Seeking love. Given our cinema's twin fixations on love and death and the long history of men sitting in the dark watching brightly lit women, there can be few real-life happy endings, and his is no exception. The stuff of legends manifests itself as the eyes of a poet adoring from a distance. When the beloved comes calling in the form of a fellow poet, we see him as tormented and at a loss as any one of us, unable to directly resolve his affliction or express his inner turmoil. Suddenly, he is just one of silver screen's perpetually stricken and morose lovers, serial tea drinkers and afflicted chain smokers all. When the two finally meet, they gaze into each other's eyes, briefly exchange a few words, and unable to bridge the gap between two mere mortals, what follows can only be silence. The gulf in between widens until the absences and silences become insurmountable, so that after the final break, she will relive their brief shared history by retrieving the smoked stubs left by him and pressing them against her lips. However, alone once again, they do not drift apart, but begin to address their life's work to each other, launching monologues on the air, in the hope that the other is paying attention, even if it is to reaffirm that life is not merely an effervescent sum of a 7-year silence, a pocket full of oblique glances, a dozen exchanged love letters, a cup of tea from which the beloved last drank, and the stubs of a lover's discarded cigarettes. After all, had the man himself not reminded us obliquely, मैं पल दो पल का शायर हूँ, adding only an hour later, मैं हर एक पल का शायर हूँ, and finding death. In love, as in death, a fortuitous mix-up takes place on the way to a writer's conference. The lover's name tags are wrongly assigned, and momentarily the poet becomes his beloved and she becomes him. It is not recorded whether the error was swiftly corrected. However, when death does finally come looking for one named Abdul Hai at his Punjabi birthplace, a red sandstone Haveli in Ludhiana's Karimpura, it does not find him close to home. It searches for the tormented youth in Lahore and then briefly the restless poet in Delhi before claiming him at his Bombay retreat of Parchaiya. In a pall of smoke and alcohol fumes, shattered, spent, and fully at a loss for words for once, having lived several lifetimes in a paltry 59 years. 3 decades later, to make room for fresh interments, his tomb is unceremoniously demolished and his mortal remains dissipate, irretrievably, yet somehow fittingly. Meanwhile, Sahir the wizard, Sahir the Banjara, Sahir the man on fire, having already escaped his mortality, much like those who inspired him, Mir, Ghalib, Iqbal, and Faiz, is ours in perpetuity, whether doomed or blessed. In the bonded embrace of our dukha, he returns to relive his past infatuations. Today, a century to the day since his birth, if death were to come looking for one named Sahir Ludhianvi, it will find a million-strong army bearing his name tag, stating, I am Sahir Ludhianvi, come and take me. Basti, basti, parbat, parbat, gata jaye banjara, लेकर दिल का एक तारा. Thank you.
Thank you, Tāriq ji. Thank you so much. And some of you will have heard this at the opening on 6th evening. I had specially requested Tāriq ji to come and read the ode on 6th. He wrote it for this occasion particularly. So I want to thank you, Tāriq ji, for this tribute. And if I may say that all of us will latch onto your back and lend a hand, as in एक अकेला थक जाए तो मिलकर हाथ बढ़ाना, but we'll do it reverse. एक अकेला only has done all this work, and all of us just are there to show our appreciation through this applause.
Thank you to you also for organizing this marathon and that you're running. More power to you. Thank you so much. And of course, I would recommend everyone print out the name tag with your names on it. Put Sahir Ludhianvi under it. So next time, they know who to pick. Okay, bye.
Thank you so much, Tāriq ji. And again, after the panel that is just going to begin shortly, there will be time for conversation. So,
Okay. Thank you.